Why is it so difficult to take a break even after a good day? If a hustler in me didn't want to rest, I don't know what to tell you. Look, the truth is, hustle feels natural, especially when you just start, and slowing down feels uncomfortable. It's something I'm working on, and this video is for everyone who prides himself on their hard work, whether you're a student, a professional, or an entrepreneur. Because hustling is something that you hear a lot of the time, but you don't really understand what it is. Hustling isn't just about business. It's always studying, it's always planning, it's always optimizing. And essentially, you're always trying to be productive. And a lot of us romanticize this idea of being productive and grinding non-stop. And then until it's too late, I've been through this, I realized, oh, I'm just getting in my own way of my own growth. The exact thing I was trying to do, which was trying to improve, trying to become a better person, I instead got my own way because I just wanted to fill in time with the same things but doing them at higher intensity. Constant hustle is stopping you from reflecting. It's you always filling the space to think because you think if I do more, I'm going to get out more. But the reflection is where the growth lies. And reflection requires friction. You can't just keep going and never reflect because you will never get deep enough to understand what could you do better? How could you improve your approach? Is your system really working? This video is about you mastering momentum instead of momentum mastering you, because you think you're doing more and you're taking on more responsibility. Yeah, sure, you're getting older, but sometimes you don't need to do all the things you're doing. Sometimes you need to delegate. Sometimes you need to pass up on something. Sometimes you need to swap something out. So it's your choice. Are you going to continue distracting yourself with more work, or are you actually going to do the meaningful work that will progress you further from where you are right now? Because once you start hustling, that's actually the path of least resistance. The inertia that you get from your momentum is stopping you from actually slowing down and taking that uncomfortable step to just nip it in the bud slightly and then continue again. You're probably looking at me and you're thinking, so why are you telling me this? If you're struggling with it and you're typing in the middle of the night, why should I take advice from you? But something that I think is really useful to keep in mind is that you shouldn't be scared to give advice based on stuff that you know is correct. And that comes from a place of self-awareness of your own flaws. So I'm not saying blindly go around and be telling people to do this, do that. It's more so there's wisdom in acknowledging your flaws and teaching someone else not to make the same mistakes. So this is very much a reminder for myself, but it's also a checkpoint for you watching. If you're watching this, you're probably a hard worker. You're probably someone who prides himself on hard work. So maybe it's 5-10 minutes, maybe it's just this video, but if you could reflect, see where you're at when it comes to hustling and grinding, what is your mindset around that? And that will definitely take you to another level of where you need to be in terms of your systems, your progress, and so on. So I'm going to give you a practical concept which I call phased momentum. Phased momentum is my approach that I've been using for the past year, and it's allowed me to balance multiple commitments and achieve controlled and sustained growth in all of them. So I've actually drawn a graph for this, and I'm going to show you guys and break it down. So this graph here is phased momentum, and on the y-axis you've got effort, on the x-axis you've got intensity, and your gradient is work ethic. This is simply illustrative purposes. This is a visual so you understand how I approach my multiple commitments. So in order to achieve sustained growth across all of them, I take this approach of phased momentum where I start off slow, there's nothing wrong with starting slow, and then we take a break, we go a bit faster, take a break, go a bit faster, and so on. So this is a very zoomed in image of what phased momentum looks like. And essentially what you're trying to achieve here is a sense of balance, because you don't want to be tending towards one thing all the time and giving up the other things you care about. It's like studying 24/7 but not exercising, It's like exercising 24/7 and not going out. So phased momentum is you taking the agency to say, I'm going to put this down for now and I'm going to come back to it later. I'm going to attend to something else, come back to it later. And essentially you're trying to make sure that you don't burn yourself out on this one thing. Because as I said before, you don't want momentum to be your master really. You want to master momentum, right? So when you feel the motivation, you feel the inspiration, like I did when I was typing my ideas in bed, you don't just attend to it straight away, but instead come back to it when you are intentional in your actions. I made sure to wait a whole week to come back to the video idea, because otherwise it would detriment other areas of my life, because now there's an imbalance in how I plan myself, right? So if I was to give the example of an interview, let's say I have an interview in a month's time, I will start today. Not preparation itself, but I will plan ahead. So let's say this week I do 4 hours of preparation and I spread it across the week. Maybe 1 hour across the 4 weekdays, and then the rest is just rest. Just doing other stuff, right? And then for the week after, I'll do a bit more, maybe 8 hours, then maybe 12 hours, and then the final week, maybe 20 hours, right? But that's the idea of phased momentum. You kind of know it already because you've probably heard of spaced repetition. And spaced repetition is simply saying, if you study something today, maybe come back to it the day after, then wait another 2 days or 3 days, take another break, come back to it again a week later, and so on. So you've kind of got phased momentum at the back of your mind already. You just need to unlock it when it comes to your approach to other things. The reason why this is so powerful is because you are being intentional in when you slow down. So you're not rushing, trying to achieve a straight gradient line, the most boring 45-degree line, because you think if I work harder, I'm going to get more output. I'm going to achieve more. You're not doing that. Instead, you're phasing it off. You're starting here, you're taking a break, you're going up again, taking a break. And that stops you from being forced to take a break when you don't want to. But you're probably thinking now, don't sacrifices have to be made? What happened to sacrifices? What happened to just not doing that thing that you said you want to do because you've got something bigger? So I want to take you back to my teenage years, and in this case we're talking about hustle. So I thought about, okay, if I want to be the best student possible, I'm gonna have to allocate as much time as possible to studying. I didn't understand diminishing returns. I didn't understand that multiple commitments can coexist. And this is an invisible rule that I had to overcome as I went from secondary school to sixth form to university, I gradually unwound that idea that multiple commitments can't coexist. That's when I started experimenting. That's when I started doing new things. I started growing as a person. Something that I realized is that, yes, you do need to make sacrifices, but at the same time, if you're always dropping that thing that you wanted to do because you're restricting yourself, you're saying, no, I can't do it. It's not possible because I have to do this thing. You're only building resentment for that thing. If you're doing something day in, day out, non-stop, grinding on that one thing, there's gonna come a point where resentment is gonna force you to shift your attention to something else. Because you've missed out on so much, you've sacrificed a lot already to get to where you are. The reason why that's so important to me is because I was once that person who just wanted a straight line, a very simple model to follow, to say, if I work harder, I'm gonna get more. But why I was able to shift towards phased momentum is because I realized not every task has the same importance, number one. And number two, your energy is where you should be looking. There's low energy tasks and there's high energy tasks. Low energy is like admin. High energy is the actual study, is for work. In every area of your life, there's admin. If it's going to university, for pre-work to lectures is admin, technically, because you're going to university for the lectures. If it's work, it could be emails. If it's your own endeavors, it could be meetings, right? So there's always admin, and you can do those things when you have less energy. Maybe it's later in the day, it's a webinar, it's a call, but you don't have to do it first thing in the morning. Otherwise, all hell will break loose. You can actually take your time with it and prioritize other things to come before it. And it becomes hustling when you want to give your high energy to the low energy tasks, because now you're always busy. Now you're always trying to fill in the time. Now you're always trying to maximize in the minor. You're trying to major in the minor, and that's not what you're meant to do. You need to prioritize and you need to take your time with those low energy tasks. But I have to be honest, right? You can see my behavior is still inclined to that hustle mindset, and it has brought about success. But I also know that what took me here won't get me to where I want to be. So I have to change something, right? There has to be some sort of fundamental mindset shift. There has to be a change in attitude when it comes to hustling and grinding. Overall, you would say hustle is effective in the short term, but in the long term, it's not sustainable. And when you realize that, discipline is no longer, am I going to go to the gym today? Am I going to study today? Am I going to go to that lecture or whatever? It's actually, can you control your excitement? Can you refrain from giving into motivation? Because if you can do that, you're good, because you have your system, you've planned everything out. If you just follow through on that and you don't let excitement or motivation get in the way of you actually executing on the other stuff, you'll be fine. Nonetheless, by God's grace, we'll continue to see more success, because you and I know we have gifts waiting to be uncovered. And as we sit here today, we have talents that are currently being nurtured. But it is our duty to stay true to ourselves, because we have to sustain and grow our efforts. Don't let the hustle destroy you. Yeah, I know, I'm the one saying it to you, but yeah. Okay, but seriously, hustling can quickly become the quicksand for all of your efforts. And if you made it to the end of this video, comment 100% and the key takeaway that you got from this video. Thank you for watching.